Welcome back to the Breaking Down Walls podcast. I'm Jill Barrile, founder of Bare By Barrile, an intimacy coaching and boudoir photography business. I'm here with my co-host, Natalie Craigmeyer, trauma-informed somatic coach and yoga instructor. This is the Breaking Down Walls podcast, where we question the rules, change the norms, and talk about the things that most people avoid. On this podcast, we explore the many layers of being human, from relationships and sexuality to spirituality, beauty, culture, and everything in between. On our last episode, we talked about sexuality and nudity, and that conversation naturally led us to today's topic, relationship dynamics. Most of us were raised with one relationship script: meet someone, fall in love, be monogamous. But the reality is that relationships exist in a much wider spectrum. Today, we're exploring some of those dynamics, including monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, open relationships, and polyamory. And we're joined by our friend Tabitha Sweeney, who shares her personal journey moving from a traditional marriage into the world of non-monogamy. This conversation isn't about telling anyone how they should love. It's about curiosity, understanding, and expanding the conversation. So let's break down some walls. All right. Hi, Nat.
Hey, Jill.
Welcome back to the Breaking Down Walls podcast.
I'm so excited about our topic today. I have a lot of opinions, uninformed opinions, I should add, which makes this more exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with you too, because I don't know we've talked really about this so much between the two of us. So today, our topic is around relationship dynamics. Last week, we kind of started to toe the edge of, we got into the topic of nudity, and we started to toe the edge of sexuality a little bit. We're talking about the sex clubs. And so today we're really going to lean into like the different relationship dynamics. We thought this would be a perfect segue into the next thing, essentially. So we're just going with it. So should we start with what we would consider ourselves as far as like our relationship dynamics?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm monogamous. I've always had monogamous relationships, and we're going to go into kind of like what exactly that means. I actually got textbook definitions of everything because I was like, I want to make sure I'm clear on what all of these are as well. So monogamous basically means that you are in a relationship with one person, both on a sexual, emotional in an emotional way. And so, there's not like another person involved. So it's just a one-to-one commitment essentially without anyone. And is like, they say at the peak is like marriage, which I don't know that that's the truth nowadays, but that would be like the pinnacle of monogamy, they say, is marriage. So I guess I'm married now. So I guess that's part of my, that's what I'm doing.
Amazing. What are the other relationship options?
So as far as like what I would say there, and I found these to be like a few different categories. So non-monogamy, there's non-monogamy, there's ethical non-monogamy. I put swingers also in that dynamic, polyamory, and was there a third one? I have some notes here. Those are the only ones I really looked at. Polygamy. Polygamy was the other one that I don't actually know a ton about. And I would say when I'm finding, as I'm like reading through these, I'm like, it has a lot to do with partners. Like, is it one partner or multiple partners? Is it a sexual experience? Is it sexual just between you and your partner, or multiple people? And is there an emotional relationship? Is there an emotional tie to just one person or multiple people? So that's what I'm finding to be like the core of them. But I haven't really fully explored many of these. So I'm really curious to talk about them and like how we feel about it personally. So
I'm also really excited because I'm also monogamous and also married. So very much in that way, kind of vanilla.
Yeah, I know.
Societally speaking. But I always had like a curiosity towards these like polyamorous, like being involved with more than one person at a time. But what I've found, I was especially really curious about it when I was in my mid-20s. I was like, oh, I would love to be in relationships with multiple people and sort of be able to explore and not feel tied down and whatever. But then I realized every single time I always had a preference for one person, and it always kind of made everybody else uninteresting. And it's perfect for my personality because I do have a bit of like a hyperfixation brain, and I will get tunnel vision on, even if it's a project or if it's a work or if I'm making a painting or if it's a person, like I do tend to have a pretty fixated brain. And so for me, I can barely walk and talk at the same time. So having partners at the same time, like multitasking a relationship is a personal hell for me. And also like in theory, and also I don't genuinely think I'd be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it is a very, it's interesting as I'm reading more about this. It's like, I always try to think to myself, I'm like, was I conditioned to be monogamous, or do I choose to be monogamous because that's actually my preference? That is one question I asked myself like over the last couple years, because I'm like, is it really like, and I do feel that way. I do actually feel very monogamous. I feel very like, not saying that loyalty doesn't go hand in hand with some of these, because we'll talk about like how that can actually intertwine with this and making it more interesting. But I find that when I like commit to one person, I feel this like deep rooted loyalty to that person. I mean, I've seen it in staying in relationships too long because I'm too loyal. I'm just like, I committed to this. I'm seeing it through. That's very Capricorn of me. And like, I don't know that is, I think that's innately me more than like a societal norm, although monogamy is like the societal norm. Of what we see, I would say.
Right? It's okay to do the norm. I shouldn't say normal, but it's okay to do the norm.
To be normal.
It's okay to do the norm.
Yeah. And I think like what I find too is that people that want to explore beyond monogamy, they're the ones that get tied up a little bit, and like that's why cheating happens, because maybe there is another pathway, or the relationship gets stale, and like that may look like we have a great partnership, maybe on a like level of I don't know, just like we work functionally together, like everything's good, but like I'm not sexually satisfied, or we have really different like levels of like our libidos are different. One might be really low or asexual, and one might be very high, or like needing that kind of more more interaction, I guess. And I would say even with that, like there are other ways besides like changing the relationship dynamics, but I think that could be one solution. So, okay, do you want me to tell you about the different relationship styles that I found? And I want like anyone that's listening to this, there may be more. These are the ones I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I want to hear all about it. But before we do that, let's do a little temperature check of our walls. Okay, so Jill, non-monogamy. Do we have a wall? Is there a window or door, or have you already like just busted the wall down?
I would say when it comes to like anything open, non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, or anything like that, I definitely have a wall there. I've tried to think about it in my head, and I would say there's definitely a wall, and I tried to like get over that wall, and I'm kind of curious what's going to happen today, especially because we have a guest joining us in a little bit. But I would say there's mostly a wall there. Again, though, I wonder if I wasn't in a committed relationship, maybe it would look different. And actually I have a story for that I want to talk about with our guest, because she kind of has a similar story I know that I have with that. So we'll get into that in a little bit, I think. Okay, what about you? Where you're feeling? Where are you at?
I'm feeling like there's a big wall, and we'll talk about it more later. But for me, I feel like I did play with the non-monogamy and then really realized through experience that like monogamy is for me. And I feel
Mhm.
pretty solid on that. And it would be, I've had a bunch of conversations with my husband about it too. And we were both massive flirts. Like when we met each other, we were both like super out there, super non-attached, whatever. But then
Yeah.
once we got together with each other, we are just so locked in. And it's like, no, this is it. Like we know that this is it. We know we're not interested in bringing anything else into the relationship. We do have like a tiny little window open where if we get older and like something shifts and we do feel like, okay, maybe something needs to be re-explored, we can go there. But for right now, he and I are both super convinced with monogamy. So I'm also very interested to see what's going to happen in this conversation.
Yeah. And the conversation you're going to have later.
Also.
Okay, let's jump into some definitions because I really am excited to bring our guest on.
Yes.
Because she's going to give us like such good perspective, I think, too. Okay, so typical monogamy is going to be one emotional partner and one sexual partner, same person. So it's an exclusive partnership between two people. All right, so statistically, that is the norm. I think I have some notes here, that at least in the States, which I would say is more conservative when it comes to this kind of stuff anyways, it's around 75% of Americans are in monogamous relationships, and that's their ideal. About 50% say that's like their ideal relationship. So I think there is a little bit
expected, to be honest.
Really?
Only
Yeah, I
say monogamy is ideal.
So what I am looking at essentially, because I'm like reading a bunch of statistics and I'm like, okay, let's see how this can make sense. It sounds like from what I'm reading, like that monogamous is like what most people do because that is the norm. Yeah, they have these like mental curiosities of open relationship. We're gonna see something like ethical non-monogamy, which I'll go into next, as something that's kind of on the rise, for I would say like especially people between the ages of 20 and 45 from what I understand, although I hear a lot of people explore that in their later age too, like you said, like maybe there's something that happened or like we want to like do something different, spice things up. So it's hard to always, I feel like, put a lot of reliability in statistics because they can like swing them in so many different ways, I find. But it is interesting to see like maybe some trending differences, of like what it was like 20 years ago,
Yeah.
I would say. So the next one, sorry, I have two mouses here. Let's see, so then we have monogamy. Oh no, we have non-monogamy, which is going to be basically like you have multiple partners, multiple sexual partners, emotional partners. It's also like considered like an umbrella term. I would say this is like used for people that are like, I'm just hooking up and doing whatever I want to do, dating, I'm hooking up. Like, I may not be really honest with everybody. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It's a little like kind of that, I would say like that player mentality is non-monogamy. Like, so you probably see this. It's not like they're cheating, but maybe they're in like situationships, I would say is kind of like the non-monogamy type people. And they're like kind of in that in between, where ethical non-monogamy is going to be similar, but there's that consent and that honest conversation, and that's what makes it ethical. So maybe we're dating and I'm just like, hey, by the way, I'm dating other people. By the way, I'm still sleeping with other people, but I have an emotional connection to you, or whatever that looks like. You're having that conversation during the relationship, or maybe like as you start the relationship. It's like you're not the only one, and maybe that's okay for us, and maybe I just want to see you on Tuesdays. Or maybe like that's like I find that to be really interesting, especially like I wonder if that is, and I'm like kind of curious, I'm like I feel like everyone that's dating is kind of ethical non-monogamy a little bit, but maybe that's just like that also can be a lifestyle choice too, of like that's like the dynamic you're after, even if you like get into like wanting a relationship or something like that. So
yeah,
it's a little, yeah.
Whenever I hear about that sort of dynamic, I just always assume that that is for people who just don't want to go that deep with a partner and they want to sort of keep everything maybe a little bit more on like a casual side. At least that's how I felt when I was in that stage. It's like, oh, we're just going to keep everything casual. We're just going to keep everything kind of surface. I'm not committed to anything. I just don't want to be like tethered to something. I want to be free to roam, which is great. But like, I'm really curious if you can go super deep, even if you are like spread so thin. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, everyone has different like capacities, I guess, right? And like what they're desiring. Like I don't know that I could, like, as far as like that depth of emotional depth with one person and then also have somebody else, but also have different sexual partners. I don't know where, like, if my capacity would be there for that. You know, I think it takes a different type of personality or like the way you structure your life has to be probably very specific, I guess. And I think the biggest thing with that is just remaining open, essentially, and very honest, which is also an umbrella term. So ethical non-monogamy, I think, is more, it kind of coincides with open relationships, swingers, and polyamorous. It's almost like a spectrum. What I found too, like as like I go through these, it's like this is, instead of them being these categories, I find it to be more interesting to be a spectrum of like, we're very monogamous or the other end is going to be polyamorous, you know, and then there's maybe you're like somewhere in between, where I think honesty is where like the honesty part is really a major part of any of these relationship dynamics besides the just non-monogamous, where they seems to be more of a situationship. We don't have the, like, we don't have that communication between the two of us. So yeah. And then we have open relationships. That's usually like you are in a committed relationship with a partner. But you guys can explore other people. So you have a primary, you know, maybe we're in a marriage or a long-term relationship. You're my primary person, but I also can, you know, play with other people and like you have a like sexual relationship outside of just the two of us. And then there's swingers, which is also usually the same, usually one primary partner. And like I find that to be more of a like a social sexual exploration that people do, and it's like a party thing or like a club thing. It's a lifestyle as well, but I think you're kind of doing it like together. Like, so as a relationship, you're deciding to go and do this stuff together. We're open. I think you're kind of like going and meeting other people, but like maybe your partner's not involved. Maybe they are. Like, I think that one seems to kind of like probably have a little bit of overlap and gray area there.
Is there a differentiation between like you can physically explore with other people, but emotional connections are discouraged? Or is it like it doesn't matter if it becomes emotional? Like, are there boundaries within that? Or is it, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's one question I want to talk to our guest about, because I find, from my understanding, open relationships are more about like sexual exploration. So maybe like we're in this emotional connection with our partners, you know, we have the home together, the kids, or whatever it is. But I'm not, all of my sexual desires aren't being met. So maybe we're like outsourcing sex, essentially. We call it outsourcing sex in like in a sex coaching space, because it's like that's just could be one option to even like save your relationship. Maybe because you guys have different lifestyles or just wanting something different. So there is communication, it sounds like, within that dynamic though, or should have communication. It's very open.
Personally, it's so hard for me to imagine a world where I could have all these sexual connections and not get emotionally attached. So that's something that I'm like, how do these people do this?
Yeah, I know. I think that is one part is like the jealousy piece of like, am I jealous or am I conditioned to feel jealous because of this? Which is one thing I feel like I ask myself, but I also am like, well, I feel jealous. So I feel like that's probably, it's true for me at the same time. Um, and then the last one is polyamorous. And like, find this one to be the most, I wouldn't even say layered. I would say layered. And like in my head, I'm like complicated, but like for people in that relationship dynamic, it doesn't probably feel as complicated for them as we see from like an outside perspective. I would say it's a lot more of a layered experience. And there's different forms of that. So I know there's some polyamorous people that have like their primary and then they have like their secondary partners. And sometimes like their secondary partners interact with their primary partners. So there is a lot more relationship. I would say for polyamorous, it's both it can be a sexual relationship outside of maybe your primary partner or emotional. And sometimes they may be just emotional, or maybe it's just like a kink BDSM relationship. So maybe there isn't any like, like intercourse or like deep, I don't know, like it may not be like what we typically think of as a relationship, a sexual relationship anyways. And so that one feels most layered. And I feel like that is the one that like there is so much communication around. And you don't also need to have a partner either. Like some people are in partnership and are poly, or there's some people that are like solo poly and like they have their different. And that's where I get a little dicey of like, then what is ethical non-monogamy? This is where I want our guests to clear this up, because I guess when you were talking about polyamory, is it still ethical non-monogamy if you're like kind of single, like a solo person, but you're also dating people and having these emotional ties? So that's one thing where I get a little bit unclear or what other people would say for themselves. So,
and I think that is, I mean, that's sort of the whole thing of non-monogamy, at least for me, is the lack of clarity that makes it so like unsettling to me in my body, in my life, in my experience. It's like I don't feel that there are clear boundaries. So what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it, right? So I feel like the part is like there has to be deep communication. There has to be boundaries. There has to be like the safe word or something to be like, hey, if we need to bring this back just to us, then we can do that. So I don't think any of those other relationship dynamics work unless you have like structured conversation way beforehand, probably for like, unless you're already, committed to that relationship path. So it's very interesting. And I would say like this rise of ethical non-monogamy, I'm kind of curious of like why that's becoming more commonplace. I think because maybe the lines are being blurred around people's sexuality and like wanting to express them sexually in different ways, maybe because we're allowed to be a lot more open as far as like who we're attracted to. I think that plays a little bit of a role. And so I kind of see it as a scale of like, I'm either like, I just want to be with this person. I like have a little bit of fantasy, maybe sometimes be like bring in a partner. There is an actual scale, because I was thinking about, I'm like, I think I should draw a scale for our podcast. And then when I was doing some research, I found, I'm like, oh, there is a spectrum. So it's the monogamy spectrum essentially. And there's like a few different visuals of it, but like essentially like how monogamous are you to open? And like it also has charts that I'm like, you're monogamous, but sometimes you like to do this. So it's like no one says it to like a certain way. Although I feel like we both kind of fit into that typical traditional way. So
Yeah, I would agree.
it's fascinating. I think our guest is here, so we will bring her in just a second. I'm excited to introduce you to her. She's a good friend of mine. Her name is Tabitha Sweeney. We met here in the States, and very similar. We were kind of going through actually relationship, like figuring out what relationships we wanted after we both actually went through breakups. And so we kind of went down similar, like exploratory paths with each other. She has a very wide spectrum of experience in this. And I think she's going to be bringing in like the other side and can give us a lot of insight into what these relationships look like in real life, because I feel like me and you haven't really played in that. So it'll be fun to like get her in here. So I will bring her in just 1 second. All right. So we are here with my good friend Tabitha Sweeney. Welcome. We're excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here with you girls.
Yeah, we're hanging. Get your coffee. Do you have a drink in hand by chance?
You know I have my
Perfect. Coffee. Cheers, girls.
Cheers, guys.
We were just discussing all different relationship dynamics, but I want to bring you in first and kind of catch you up and also introduce yourself. I introduced you a little bit, but I feel like you have a better grasp of what you do these days. I don't actually know most of the time. It changes so much. So would you like to like give us a little synapse of you?
Yeah. So my background is in coaching. I've got like 15 years in coaching. But you know, COVID kind of changed everything. And so it took my coaching from being really body image focused in the gym setting into unraveling this entire world that body image is actually the center of, and how authenticity and autonomy are not preached, talked about. We don't learn it growing up. And so that's really become the center of my entire world right now. I kind of consider myself more of an advocate because I don't do any long-term coaching programs or anything like that anymore with clients. And I really do everything is about pushing societal norms, like just in every way in my own life, helping my clients figure it out in all of my writing. I do a ton of writing. And so like, what am I? I don't really know what I am. I have no idea. I'm just a girl who's like figuring it out as she goes along.
Us too. Welcome to our podcast.
Right. I mean, I don't know what I am, but I live a very non-traditional life and I write about it in my Substack, and I do one-off like sessions with most of my clients via text that is like, I don't know what to do, or oh my God, I said yes again, but I didn't mean to say yes. I don't want to do this. How do I get out of it? And it's like in the now, I say I'm the person you call in between therapy sessions. And only like when you need to. So that's what I do.
That's perfect. Thank you for letting us know that. So we were just discussing, so this whole episode is on relationship dynamics, right? So I was talking a little bit about the different ones, just giving us some like textbook definitions of the relationship dynamics, monogamy, non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, swinging, polyamory, all of it, just kind of like cut and dry what it like, I'm interpreting it as. And so we usually like to do a temperature check first on things. And so we did a temperature check between me and Nat, and we are both in the category of monogamy and very much have like a wall up around kind of exploring beyond that, I would say, or there's some curiosity, but we also have a lot of just real time, in real life sort of experience where we feel that was the right fit for us. But I know you have kind of a story when it comes for your own journey, because you were monogamous, I think, you know, at first anyways, for most of your life anyway.
Until I was 40. Yeah. I was monogamous. I didn't know there were other choices. Yeah. Like I thought it was either be single or get married and be monogamous. I never realized there were other choices. So I was actually married for, we were together for close to a decade. We got divorced in 2020 and I took a couple years to heal. And then like any, you know, good best friend, Jill said, hey, I need you to get on FET with me. And I was like, what's FET? And she's like, it's an app. I'm getting more kink request clients. I need to learn more. Just get on this app with me. And like any good best friend does, you just say, okay. And that's what I did. And wow, the door, the world that it opened was insane. So I got on, and the very first message I ever got from somebody was a man. I don't know if you remember this, Jill, but he asked if he could, if I would fart on his face. And I was like, what did you just tell me to sign up for? Like, is this for real? This can't be for real.
But okay, for anyone that doesn't know what FET is, can you tell us what FET is?
So it is an app for fetishes and kink related things. So
there's a lot of good stuff on there too. Like there is a
ton of good stuff. But as somebody who at that point was so vanilla, I didn't even know I could choose between like chocolate or vanilla or get a twist. Like I thought only vanilla was my only option. Like,
yeah,
I was blown away because I had no idea at that point. And that all started after, I don't know if you remember this, Jill, but I went on a date, my first date after my divorce. Like 2 years after my divorce, and had the most amazing sex of my life. And it like rocked my world. And I was like, I didn't know it could feel like that. I remember calling you and being like, oh my God. And you were like, you never had, I was like, no, it was never like that. Like, it was never fun. Like, it was just, no, I didn't know that existed. And that kind of changed everything, because it like opened a door that I didn't know was even there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what, this is about, of like, the more we know, right? Like, I feel like societally we have been conditioned to think and to know like monogamy is the path to, relationships. And that's the relationship that should work best for everybody. And sometimes it does, but then there is that, there are other options. There's other things on the menu. Sometimes.
How did you go from, you went through the divorce, you didn't date for a couple of years, and then you go on this date, you have the best sex of your life. How did that end up becoming, are you, let me ask first, do you identify as polyamorous, or do you identify as
I identify as open,
okay,
or non-monogamous. It's
do you have a primary partner?
So I'm actually in a throuple with a couple who we've been together for 6 or 7 months now. And it never started to get, like, it had no intention of getting to this point. It's just gotten very serious. But I am still open to finding a primary partner who is able to meet needs in a different way. If that makes sense, because there is a limit to what you can experience in a throuple when everybody has kids and you live 30 minutes from each other, right? Like, it's not ultimately my end all be all what I'm looking for.
Take us on the journey. So you started opening up FET, and like, what kind of conversations were you starting to have on there? I mean, I know some of them, but
so I started with like, it just being like, is any of this even real? And I started literally just responding to people and like just asking them questions. And I was chatting with people all over the world. I was super interested at that moment. I was super interested in what a dom sub relationship was like. And I couldn't wrap my brain around it, because one of the very common things that you see on FET is like, that is one of the most common dynamics that's out there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wrap my brain around it. So I kept finding people who identified as doms, because at that point I thought I was a sub. Turns out I'm not a sub. Not at all. But I started reaching out and like asking them questions and trying to figure out, like, is this an all the time thing? Is this just like role play in the bedroom? Like, what is it? And what I learned was it's so very different for each and every relationship. So I started interviewing people, and then I actually met my AC, who was my first true partner in non-monogamy. And we were together for a year, and it was wild because I realized how much you have to unlearn as you're going through that. So I would like, like I would.
That's what I was gonna get to too, like the unlearning part of going from monogamous relationship to being like, I'm open to this, and I also really think it's for me. Like that unlearning. Tell us about that a little bit, because I think that is like the place where I think me and Natalie, especially, our brains are like, no, I can't get past. I mean, I do think in my heart I'm not, but I also am like, I can't get past certain things. And I think that's the part of the wall that we have.
Takes a lot, like a lot of very intentional work. And I have to say this, an unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy partner, if you don't have good communication, you're unlearning it isn't even possible. You have to be with the right person, and you have to be able to have patience with the person. I mean, I remember crying at one point being like, I don't want to be jealous right now. I don't know how to not be jealous right now. Or you start realizing how many stories you tell yourself in your head. And that's how it started. Like I would call him, and we always were open on who was going on a date, but and we didn't live close together. So I do think that helped, because it made sense that we were going to date other people too. And I remember the one time him telling me about one of his dates coming over, and she was really upset, had a really bad day at work. And in my head, he was like sitting on the couch consoling her and like giving, and he's like, none of that happened. He's like, that's not at all. He's like, I only have that sort of relationship with you. And I think that's what it was learning, was that what him and I had was not what he had with other people. And it's not what I had with other people. And it's so easy to know, like, well, I don't have these feelings for other people the way I have for you. But why is it so hard to convince myself that you don't have those feelings for other people? Right? Like
so many feelings.
So many feelings. I mean, I remember crying, being like, I want this. And he's like, I know you do. And I truly did. Like it was a wall I desperately wanted to break down, but it was hard. And what I learned was that in our monogamous societal life, there are so many things that just, monogamy is a set. This is what it is. Here's the rule book. And when you get into non-monogamy, in all of the different dynamics, there is no rule book. You have to create a rule book each and every time with each and every partner. And so I started learning different conversations I was having that I had never had in a monogamous life.
Like the communication was like a different,
next level. Consent is a next level. In monogamy, especially growing up in the 90s, like stop was the only thing that we had learned. No was the only thing that we had learned to mean consent. And right now I'm working on a book right now, actually, about revolutionizing consent and teaching consent, because it was wild. I thought safe words were just for, being tied up. Yeah. We started to have safe words in like our everyday life, like just in regular communication. Like, I got to tell you something that's really hard. And we had a lot of really hard conversations. And your skin gets really thick because you have to learn how to be turned down by other people gracefully. And you have to learn how to turn down other people gracefully. Otherwise, it's not what it's meant to be,
So my question is, as you're explaining all of this to me, I'm kind of imagining myself in that situation and just constantly having to have these hard conversations and make up rules and then shift the rules because one person isn't happy with the rules and all these things. And it sounds like it's a ton of work. And so I'm wondering, like, what makes it worth it to do this much work, to do this much like emotional labor?
So much emotional labor. I don't even recognize the person I was beforehand. And I think it's helped me. I credit who I am now and the way I run my business and the way I do everything because of going through that. Because it really truly opened me up to I'm better at having hard conversations with anybody. I have better boundaries about protecting my own energy than I've ever had before. I really had to dig in and find my value and my worth and build my trust in myself. And so it literally, when I say it changed everything about me. In some of the absolute best ways, I lost people along the way too. It's fucking hard. Like,
Yeah.
But you also get to a point, I think, where it becomes, when you have a primary partner, after you've done that emotional work, it gets easier. And so like now the people who I am, who are my people down here after I moved and I had to make all new friends, all of my friends have already done the majority of the heavy lifting work. So now they know how to have that same hard conversation. So it's easier to have. The friends I have now, like there is no more like, oh, I think I have a headache tonight. I can't make it. Like, it's just like, dude, I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying like that, like besides just in the relationship world of like romantic or sexual or whatever, it's like change the way you show up in your everyday, like other things, essentially.
Everything.
Like taking that path.
Do you feel that having more partners or multiple partners, because with what you just said about like you have to find trust in yourself, you have to find your own, you're not necessarily getting that from just one other person, you have to get it from within because there's so many other like moving parts at play. So do you feel that there's less codependency in polyamory and people are just more like themselves and they're not as like tied or interwoven with their partners?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a different type of like, I will never forget. So this is the perfect example. I will never forget one of the things that changed my life with AC was we were on a call and I remember we were on video chat and I remember saying to him, I need you to get on board with this. Like, I'm going to do this. I need you in my corner. I need you to be on board. And I'll never forget. He was like, no. And I was like, huh? And it was something I never expected him to say no to. And he's like, babe, you don't need me to get on board. He's like, you asked my opinion. My opinion is, do I like it? No, I don't. But you don't need my approval. If this is what you want to do, then this is what you need to do. And I literally sat back and was like, wait, how do I know if I should do it if I don't have your approval? I mean, like, and then I started realizing when it came to buying tires for the car, I remember that I had to choose between like, do I get my brakes fixed or do I buy new tires? And I remember like calling my mom and being like, I have enough money for one, which one do I do? And I was like, oh, I see where I look for approval. Oh, I see where I look. Like I started realizing all these places in my life where I'm seeking outside counsel on things that I didn't need it for. And I started realizing all the ways that I internalized that and I held on to that, which ultimately left me with no trust in myself.
And the people pleasing that comes along with that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, so him and I, we would have some really hard conversations between, and I think this was the thing, until you learn that once you learn that trust in yourself, it gets easier. The conversations get easier, the boundaries. But like, I remember having the conversation where he was working on holding a boundary of like not being the hero, not people pleasing, not just rushing to do whatever it was I wanted. And I was in an experience where I was going to meet friends for dinner and I really wanted him there. I had extended the invite and he didn't really give me a definitive answer. And we got into a huge, heated, loud conversation. And I remember saying, no, I get that. But 9 times out of 10, I don't care. Like, this was one of those instances when it really mattered to me that you showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, like, because he was so wrapped up in his boundary of what was going on. And so it was, you know, at that moment, we had a really great conversation on like, where is the line between showing up for your partner and staying true to yourself? Because there are moments when it showing up turns into people pleasing, but holding your boundary for yourself can turn into that wall that pushes someone away.
People pleasing within an intimate relationship is a really interesting concept to me.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know that I've ever labeled it that way, because my husband and I, like, we do, I guess, sacrifice for each other at times. Like, we'll definitely do, like, I don't love doing his laundry, but I love him. He's happy to do his laundry. You know what I mean? And so I'm not going to have a, like, for me, that's not people pleasing. That's, I'm choosing to do something for him that isn't my favorite, but it's my way of like showing that I care. And so I'm curious, like, where's the line between, I don't want to people please, I want to stay true to my boundaries, I'm going to do what I want to do, and also I care about my partner and I want to show them that I care, so I'm going to do things that are uncomfortable for me because I want them to feel loved.
For me, it's resentment. If you're doing his laundry without resentment, that's not people pleasing. But if you're doing his laundry and you're swearing at him under your breath every time because you feel like you're doing all these things for him and he's not returning, now it's people pleasing. So in my definition. So it's funny because if you've only, and obviously, Natalie, I don't know your story at all, but I do know that you're in a very happy marriage right now. And so if you've ever been, like, there's such a definitive difference in a happy, healthy relationship versus the toxic, abusive relationships. So to me, yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's also those like dynamics of like what the woman is supposed to do and the man's supposed to do, and then like not questioning them in the dynamic of the relationship. Because what it sounds like is like every relationship needs to be having these conversations regardless of what your relationship, I don't know, dynamic, I guess, is. It's like, we can be having these conversations in monogamous relationships, so we know that we aren't just doing something that is, can create some resentment. I know I've felt resentment in my partnership by doing something, and I felt good doing that for my partner in other ways. And so like there is that emotional difference, I think, can both exist at the same time probably as well. So it is very interesting to kind of like, as you like are dissecting it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's people pleasing is something we learn to keep ourselves safe in most instances. And so, you know, we mirror what we saw. So like with my relationship with him, he would start calling me out on bullshit that like nobody in my whole life had called me out on. And it was things that I witnessed my parents do. Now my parents have a very good, happy, they're still married 50 years later, marriage, and they actually still like each other. But for all those years, I watched my mom just make decisions and then just fill my dad in. And I remember like the first time I was like, okay, well, meet me here. And he's like, whoa, hold up. We went from what are you doing tonight to like now meet me here. Like, you didn't ask if I want to leave the house. And I was like, what do you mean? Like,
What do you mean?
oh, I started noticing how, or like, I had expectations that I didn't say out loud. And then when he didn't meet them, I would be so angry. And I was like, he's like, well, how was I supposed to know that? And again, I feel like in monogamy, at least the monogamy that I was part of and what I knew, led into a lot of this like mind reader stuff.
Yeah, I would say that's commonplace.
This is what
They're supposed to
do.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I learned that, oh, that's not really a thing. If I didn't say it, then I can't be mad.
Yeah. I kind of, oh, go ahead, Nat. I think you have a thing, and I was going to switch us to another little spot too after this.
Yeah, I guess that I did have just one like curiosity question when you were with AC. So did you start, like, he was already polyamorous and he was the person that got you into the concept of polyamory? No. Okay. So how did you get there?
Oh my God. So we met on Fest. And we had
this is just one of many, right? Like there was a few different relationship dynamics.
Yes, this is true. We met on FET and we had the same background. So we were both vanilla beyond vanilla. And we used to have really great conversations. We talked for about a month before we met in person. And the very first time we met in person, he actually said to me, I don't physically need to see you again. I was like, ego.
Oh,
Wow. Okay. And he's like, no, he's like, I have nobody to talk to about this stuff. And I really want to keep that friendship piece. And I'm like, can't we do both? But okay, whatever. And then a couple weeks later, we were talking and he's like, I don't think you understand, Tab. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, nobody knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And my background, I describe myself as a recovering Catholic because sex was vanilla. Sex is what you're supposed to do. You're never supposed to ask for it. You're not supposed to enjoy it. You're not, like all of these things, and my grandmother's voice in the back of my head. And
that's sexy.
I thought, right? I thought Catholic guilt was really bad until I met a Mennonite. And he was a recovering Mennonite who got married at 27 as a virgin, who had the only thing he had ever done up until his wedding night was make out with her. And I went, as he's telling me this, I was like, okay, hold up. I didn't know I was the experienced one. Like, I get a redo. Because that's not how that would have gone down if I knew I was like in charge. And we went for the redo, and then it was from that on, it kind of just had a life of its own. And it started with, we were simply going to explore sex and kink together. Like that was how it started.
So he was like a partner in that. Like you're just like,
yes.
We like each other. We're both kind of in the same boat. Let's go down this road together.
Yeah. Neither of us had been done this before. You know, and it was supposed to just be that. But as time goes on and as your trust gets bigger, more and more feelings come. So we kind of were the opposite. I know a lot of people who are in long-term relationships and then try to open up. They start with all of these boundaries. And then as time goes on, they start like whittling them away. We had no boundaries. And then we started like adding them in as time went on. And the one thing you learn about boundaries is that you don't know you hit a boundary until you hit the boundary.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, and this goes back to like you had said before, Nat, about is it always this hard? The very first boundary we hit that I had like a visceral, less than want to be repetitive reaction to was he had a sleepover with somebody. And I like lost my ever loving mind, like hysterical sobbing, like in my head, like that violated everything. And in his head, he's like, huh? He's like, sleepovers are not intimate. And I was like, oh my God, it's the most intimate thing you could do. Like,
yeah,
two totally different worlds. And now though, I can recognize, ooh, that's a new boundary. So I don't have that same visceral reaction I used to have, because I also know, oh, you didn't set out just to do this on purpose.
yeah.
Like,
and now that can be part of your conversation with a new partner or whoever, like, hey,
yeah,
this is a hard no for me, or like a maybe or something like that.
yeah.
So like, what are go ahead, Nat.
Sorry, I know I'm the one asking all the questions, but I just have one more.
Okay.
Or Jill, did you want to go next? Sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Tabitha, I
It
just
may
want to
be
ask,
similar.
yeah, I want to ask you a question that I had already asked before you hopped on the call, because it was like a curiosity for me, and I want to make sure that I ask it to you. So in my impression, like, I feel like humans have a finite amount of energy at any point in time. And so in my mind and in my experience, when someone is polyamorous, they've kind of spread out their energy to multiple people. And so it's hard for me to conceptualize how you can go really, really deep with someone or any of these partners when your energy is spread out as much as it is. So is it possible to spread your energy out and also go really deep, or do you find yourself kind of having to choose?
I think that is really individual. I could never have more than, like, I've never fully considered myself polyamorous. Although I think I could have the potential with the right people. So I think that that's part of it, because the right people, while we have a finite amount of energy,
some people only take up so much energy, I guess.
And the right people will help actually recharge you too. The other thing is, I think that can be a very big misconception with polyamory, is that most polyamorous people are very, very independent. And so they're not seeing their partners every single day. They're not talking to them every single day, and they're not discussing every single issue of their life. So it's like, which partner fills which buckets.
Okay.
So
that kind of makes sense. It's like, if I could think of it as a friendship, like I go to certain friends when I'm like, I need to feel more of this, or maybe I only need to see that friend once a month to, because I get this from that person, but also like, I don't need a lot of it. I just need a drop. And then other friends, I need like once a week interaction or something.
Yeah, I feel like I don't discuss like family choices and finances and those kind of things with any and every single partner I have. Now, I did with AC to an extent. But that was a lot of that was me unlearning. Like I'd be coming to him and I'd be like, well, and he's like, well, why are you asking me this? What do you want to do? How do you feel? And so I think that that's where I really learned that, like, when it comes to my kids, my decision is the only one that matters. I mean, and somewhat their fathers, but not really. No, I joke. Legally, part of it is their fathers too, but like, they live with me. So I think that's one thing that is different, and it kind of goes back to that codependency. You don't have that interwovenness with all of your partners.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for clarifying that. That helps me really understand.
It kind of goes into like what I was thinking of talking about too, is like the satisfaction that you get from this type of relationship dynamic. Like I feel, I think about like my singlehood when I was just like dating people, and I was only getting so far in dating, and I was like, I just don't feel satisfied from dating, or I'm not satisfied from these relationships. And then you know, the few long-term relationship I had, and now, like, you know, my marriage, I'm like, I feel so satisfied in our relationship. Like, I'm excited for, you know, the emotional and sexual and all the other things that are in between there. Like, I'm excited for that to continue, and I feel very satisfied. I would love to know, like, the change that is obviously the really monogamous relationships you were in were not maybe, like, at the time they were probably satisfying, right? And like, what is like that look like kind of now? Like, does your satisfaction feel like spiked from having a different dynamic? Or what does that kind of feel like for you, I guess? Pleasure wise too.
I feel very satisfied right now. I feel very, very happy right now. And I was actually just talking about this the other night. And not only just in terms of like partnership, but just in terms of the people in my life and my friends. I feel like I've never recharged from other people. I've always recharged on my own. And my life in the past couple months has gotten busier than ever before. And I'm going out more than ever before. And I've realized it's because the people I'm going out with are like, they are charging me. Like, I do not have to mask. I do not have to pretend. I do not have to worry about the fact that if I don't feel like going, I have to make up an excuse or someone's going to be mad at me. Like, it's, I don't have to think about any of that. And so I've been with the couple for about 6 or 7 months now, and there are absolutely feelings. And the other day, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I met a new guy who's brand spanking new to the lifestyle. Brand new. Just a baby. And
when you say lifestyle, what does that mean? Just for anyone that's like, would you say just playing?
I say exploring outside of monogamy for lifestyle. I think it can mean different things to other people. It's typically a term swingers use, but it's also just kind of become part of my verbiage. And he is single, and he is brand new to the idea of non-monogamy and polyamory and kink and all of these things. And we had met, he took me out for coffee. We had a great date. And then I invited him to go to adult bingo with us. And it was drag queen bingo. And it was funny because I texted him and I was like, just so you know, my couple is going to be there and I'll be sitting in between the middle of them. So don't be offended. And he's like, okay. So he sat across from me and they sat like, and I think it's like that level of not pretending that like you are the only person, or making sure I show you enough attention, or worrying about any of that. I don't know if that really answers your question, Joe.
You know, it's okay. I feel like it's like the communication feels satisfying for you is what I'm hearing. Is that like you're saying like through these like the clarity you get from being able to talk to these different people feels really satisfying, and being able to be honest and in true to who you are, I guess. Does that feel true? Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah, I feel like I don't, I mean, if we talked about the table of who was at drag bingo and who has slept with who and who has, and all of these different things, oh my God, we would need like a huge diagram, and it's hysterical because like, so there is.
But the difference being that like everyone's honest rather than like maybe you're in a friend group that like this happens, but we don't talk about it kind of thing.
Oh, we laugh because there's one girl who was at drag bingo with her husband, and her and I have become really good friends. We text all day about stupid stuff. She's come over to for any ADHD person or autistic person out there, she's come over to body double for me before when I just am like, oh my God, I have to open my mail or I have to do this. And she'll come over and like sit and hang out while I do what the task is I need to do. We've never held hands, kissed, anything, but she has while I've been there, she's gone in the back at the club to play with Kim, who's my partner. And so we laugh because we're like, okay, Kim and I make one whole girlfriend to offer somebody else because I have the emotional capacity for somebody.
Oh, I see.
He has the physical, like, so it's just, and everybody at the table know, like, we all joke and we all laugh and we all know that. It's a different level of like letting your guard down.
Mm.
And for me, that's what's satisfying. Like, I don't ever want to think about like, ooh, can I say this out loud around these people? Or, ooh, are these people going to be upset with me if I say this? Or like, for me, it's the truth in all of it.
That's what I wanted to also, and I'm glad that you brought up the autism and the neurodivergence ADHD, because everybody that I know who practices these types of relationships are neurodivergent. And so I'm wondering, what is it that like, why is that so compatible to a neurodivergent mind?
One, we get bored easy. I mean, right?
Really.
But I also think part of it is the communication. It's just I don't want to say that you never have pleasantries or you never have, but the communication and interactions that you have with these people are very different than what you have with the moms at pickup in the school line. Like, it's really, people lead with their intention. You don't have to wonder like, well, what do they want from me? Or second guess. Like, and if you are doing that, it's okay to just come right out and ask. And the people are like, oh yeah, no, that's not what I meant at all. Or, oh yes, this is, it's wild.
I love that. That's making so much sense with what you were saying about the masking. And it's like you're in this group of people who are all having different types of relationship with each other, and all the masks are off. And I imagine that if you are a neurodivergent person who is masking all the time, that must be such a relief to be able to just fully let that off, completely be yourself, and be fully transparent and honest with all these other people who are doing the exact same thing.
It is. I mean, I spent almost 10 years in a relationship and marriage that I would have never in my wildest dreams, if he asked me what my fantasy was, I would have never actually told him a real fantasy. I would never have told him the things I was thinking. I mean, and Jill remembers way back in the day when like, I couldn't even say the word threesome. I was scared that the couple who was approaching me was judging me. Which when you think about it logically is silly. I mean, like the first time we went to the club, like I remember being like, oh my God, they're all judging us. There's nobody there. Like now I know that, but I was so conditioned to believe that anything less than completely monogamous was not okay, that I was so scared somebody might actually be able to like read my thoughts and know what I was thinking or what I really wanted or what I really craved, because that's not okay. That's not what good girls do. And I think one of the biggest things in non-monogamy is coming back to learning what you want in your own trust, and not simply, it goes back to that people pleasing. If I'm telling you what I think you want to hear and not what's true to me, resentment starts to build. So by the time I left, the amount of resentment that was in my marriage was unreal by the time I left.
Yeah.
Because I was never honest with myself, let alone another person.
This is making so much sense to me, and I appreciate you like shining such a light on it, because what I'm really going to take away from this conversation personally is, I've grown up with a ton of neurodivergence around me. I have my own brand, I'm sure. We're all different, different points on the spectrum. What I have seen to be the biggest struggle for people who have neurodivergence or neurodivergent tendencies. Most of my clients are neurodivergent in one way or another, and it is the pressure to conform. And that has been like one of, if not the hardest thing, for people who have either autism, ADHD, a combination of the two, whatever. In my experience, that has been the hardest thing because it's so associated with shame. And it's like, you don't get to be who you are because you need to fit the box of what society tells you to be. But meanwhile, you have this spicy brain that wants to have all of these things that are non-conformative and that are, it's just a different way of functioning, right? And so what I'm really appreciating about this conversation is that it's helping me really understand how this box-free version of having intimate relationships can be really healthy and really aligned for people who have maybe a more neurospicy brain. And I'm super happy to finally make those connections. So thank you for that.
I think
I like that.
One of the reasons I love talking about this is because it goes so much deeper than just sex with a lot of people. And that's what people assume. Oh, you just like sleeping around. And there, in polyamory especially, people will have partnerships that are considered a partnership but are completely no sex at all.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more than a friendship. Like it's a really weird place. And I think that for me, one of the things I love talking about this is because I tell people all the time, I don't think monogamy is bad. I just want people to know they're choosing it. I think that's it. Like, I want you to choose monogamy. And in a lot of places where there is like a marriage that is open or a primary nesting partner, especially if kids are involved and stuff, what people don't realize is a lot of people will open and close their marriages as they need. So it's like we're open, and then they're like, oh, you know what? Either because life got really busy or because, you know what? One partner's not feeling good about things right now, or they're going through something and they'll take a time out, they'll go to therapy, and then they'll open back up and they're like, this is the best we've ever been.
It's nice to have that option, I think, too, where like, I think so many people go into monogamy and they're like, this is it, one dick for the rest of my life. I mean, you see that like when people have bachelorette parties, and it's just like, to kind of put it that way makes it feel so like negative, and it's like, choose that, like you're choosing that, but you also have choice to make other arrangements as necessary in your relationship that works best for the two of you. And that may take, could take years to even open up to that place. But because there are so many like conditioned thoughts or like feelings that come up that are like probably fairly natural. One thing I did want to ask around real quick before we like wrap up soon is like, when it comes to like the sexual piece of it, do you think, besides being a little, the neurodivergence being like a kind of a bridge a little bit, do you think there is like something in like a kink for it? Or do you think it's primarily like founded in more that like emotion, like that unmasking, I guess, or maybe both a little bit?
I think both exist.
Yeah.
I think there's two types of people in the community.
Yeah.
One is broken and looking for validation. And the other is healed. And it's pretty easy if you've got the, self-awareness and the emotional intelligence to spot who is who. Kink embraces so many things and it's so individual to people. I think that there are people who have a kink for it? Sure. That's not my experience. But I don't necessarily think that means that that's the only reason that they're in it or that they're not finding other value in it. The other thing I think that goes really, and I'm just going to take a moment, if you don't mind, and just say this, because people are always so worried about the safety, right? Like sexual health and sexual safety. And I have never talked more about testing and STIs and condoms and everything else than I do in this community. There are so many events where testing, I remember being monogamous and then like wanting to get tested just because, right? For any reason. Or after when I was dating it, but I wasn't fully involved in this community yet. And like, where do you go get tested? Or like, you have to call the doctor or you have to pay. And there's this like stigma attached. Like, why would you need to be tested? Who have you been with? Right?
How many?
Yes.
What are your symptoms?
You go to these events now, like the drag bingo, there was free testing. And every single person at the table went down and got tested.
Cool.
And
that is cool.
All go do it together. We have testing nights at the club. And you literally sit in a waiting room with 50 other people. And it feels good because you're like, okay, all of these people do actually care, not only about themselves, but about their partners. And there's no stigma. You go back for your testing and like the people testing you, it's not like going into Quest. Like it's very like, you're here. Do you need to talk about prep? Do we need to talk about this? What? Yeah, that they've got providers. That was really like, I remember like the physical reaction I had to like sitting there being like, this is so different than all the years past. And I was like calling my doctor, like, can I get could you send me a script for a test? And feeling silly. Like, yeah. So that is a huge, again, misconception in the community.
And should be normalized. It seems like all the things that are happening within there are like normal conversations that should be, like we should be having conversations around health and safety and boundaries and all this stuff. So I think there's a lot, even if you don't want to go down that path, there's so much you can take from that community that they've already built that can help in a, monogamous relationship or decide for you or not. I guess too, like if you're giving any advice on someone that's starting to be like, okay, they're listening to this, they're wanting to start to like break down the wall of headed into non-monogamy or curiosity or kink. I mean, what like, I feel like there's so much you can just go down and do yourself. And like, sometimes it is about like learning as you go, but like, would you say there's some top advice that would be good as you enter? Or wish you knew?
One of the most beneficial things I had was making just a few friends in the community, even if they were people you never met in person. So like I had a couple people on FET who I'd never met in person, but I created this like dialogue with them and they had more experience and they could normalize certain things for me. Because when you first start down that road, it can be really overwhelming and there is so much to unlearn and it goes against every single thing. So you can't go to your mom and be like, so mom, how should I deal with it? Like, no. And your best friend, if she's super, super vanilla, is like, oh, I don't know. Like you start to feel, I don't want to say invalid, but you start to feel like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Right. And you start to feel really alone. And it doesn't have to be. So like, I also tell people, if you're in therapy and your therapist is like, nope, look for a new therapist. There are therapists who specialize in this. When I told my therapist, I was like, so we're going to be non-monogamous. She literally was like, I think that's the best choice you could possibly have. Like, I can't believe it took you this long to get there. Like, find people who can talk to you, who can talk about it without bringing out that shameful feeling. That's my best thing.
I love that. So good. Thank you, Tab. This has like been so enlightening. And I feel like there's even stuff that I feel like I learned from this that I know we've had many conversations about this stuff before, but putting some stuff out more plain and simple, I think, and noticing that emotional shift that I think we don't always understand when we're not in that world, I think has been really enlightening, at least for me. And I think Nat too. So yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I
guess,
think
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just think that there's so much more to it. Like I remember being monogamous, being like, these people are crazy. I don't know why anyone would do that. Like, and now I'm like over here, like I could never go back. But then I never say never, because you never know. I said I would never get married again. And if AC had asked me, I would have married him on a Tuesday. Like, you know, so you don't know. But I'll never go back to monogamy as I have previously experienced it.
Okay. So I think she knocked down the wall. I'm pretty sure you live there now.
Yes.
Wall is gone. I moved in. I built a house or a tent, maybe.
Yes.
Awesome.
What about you, Jill? Where are you feeling?
So I still feel like I'm in that monogamy boat. Like, I don't think I'm even through the deeper understanding now. I'm like, it excites me, but I also feel like maybe I'm more that safe place to have the conversation person rather than living that lifestyle. I
So do
think
you
for
feel
me,
like you've built a window?
I think I have a little window because I feel like I understand more, and I feel like I have tried to understand that world, and I do feel like I have a good grasp of it, where like I feel like a safe place for someone that wants to knock their wall down. But I don't think I am ready to knock a wall down. But again, like, I don't know, maybe down the road I'll have a sledgehammer. I don't know. But I think I could have a little window peeking in and not being, like, ignorant to like that lifestyle. I think in judging, again, like, I think we can take so much from non-monogamy and all the sorts. So I'm a window girl. I don't know what shape, maybe a circle. A weird shape, like I don't know, diamond maybe. I don't know.
A polygon?
A polygon. Yes. Like kind of stained glass in it. Yeah, that's how I feel.
I like it.
What about you, Nat?
Yeah, I think we definitely built a window with this conversation. For me, I do not see myself breaking down this wall or walking through this door during my lifetime. It could change, but that's not what I see right now. But I do feel like, Tabitha, you've given us a really, really nice, clear picture of what is going on within this community in a way that I feel like I just have a deeper understanding of it and also a deeper appreciation of it. For me personally, like I was saying earlier before you hopped on the call, I had tried to, maybe date a couple of people at the same time, but I always ended up preferring one person because I just always liked them better than everyone else. And so I kind of had in my head of like, well, don't people just want to be polyamorous because they haven't found someone that they really, really like yet? And now I have a much broader understanding that that's not the case within this community. Probably, I mean, maybe there's a few people that are that way, but it sounds like in general, that isn't the case at all. There's actually a lot of variety and depth of emotion. And I think that you really painted a beautiful picture of how this can be so beneficial for people who really resonate with that lifestyle. And it makes me happy that this is something that is accepted and is mainstream, because I do think that people deserve the right to have the types of relationships that resonate with them, as long as it's ethical and everybody's consensual and all the things. So it's really cool to have a deeper understanding of a lifestyle that I didn't really understand an hour and a half ago. So thank you very much for that. I'm very happy with this.
That makes me so happy. And I just want to say, and I know Jill already knows this, but like, there are a lot of monogamous people and couples who, because I bartend at the club. I have been going there for a long time. Like, there are a lot of monogamous couples in the quote unquote lifestyle. who aren't actually sleeping or intimate with other people at all,
Mhm.
but they like letting the mask down, or they like having a space to talk about things that they like, prefer, want, whatever the case might be, although they're only intimate with their own partners. So again, it doesn't always have to be one or the other. Like, you can integrate
I
to
love
whatever
that.
works
I
for
love
you.
knowing that.
So that
Mhm.
window could literally be like,
Open the window. a
we
little.
stay here, but like literally like we interact.
We see you.
We see, right. Like that's a thing. People like that. Like, so,
Yeah.
you know, just to know that there's no place where one has to stop and the other has to start, like where you have to actually pick a side. Like open-minded monogamy is amazing. And I'm so
Ooh,
happy
I never
you
heard
guys-
of that.
open-minded monogamy. I mean, I kind of just made it up, but it sounds good.
Run with it.
Right?
Well, I was actually thinking about that. I was like, I wonder what it's like to just still be monogamous, but enjoy that, like, you know, environment a little bit. And so I like that term maybe for that.
Well, Jill, that sounds like you when you go to the sex club.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
open-minded monogamy, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say so. Like I interact with like tons of people there, or you know, but we don't play with other people. But it's like, you know, I don't know what that is. Is that a relationship dynamic, or is that a kink? Or like we were talking about that recently. And I think honestly, I will say too that this has helped me with my relationship because I did a lot of this work. Me and Tabitha kind of went down that road. Mine was more like I kind of got out. I was like curious, but whatever. And I met Justin in a similar time frame. But I learned these relationship conversations and I brought them into our relationship very early on. And so I had a very like in-depth conversation before we were like be intimate. And it had to do with like health. What is the situation? What are the boundaries? What are all this stuff? And it really helped me ground our relationship, I think, a lot. So like there is so much value, I think, in just communicate. Whatever relationship dynamic you choose, communicate, learn to have the hard conversations without blaming each other and having resentment. And it's so interesting. I love it. Cool. Well, thank you, Tab. Thank you, Nat. This concludes another episode of the Breaking Down Walls podcast. See you next time.